Alright, welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. I just posted a video that talked about, among other things, an item I picked up at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo 2 years ago, back in 2014. And it reminded me, another thing I got at that same show was this, the Atari driving controller. And since I haven't actually talked about the 2600 in a while, I thought, well, let's showcase another great game that makes use of this controller. Because unfortunately, the driving controller was barely used back in the day. I mean, it was for Indy 500 and maybe one other original game, and that's it. And not a lot of games actually support this, which is too bad. Now, I did a video about 6-7 months ago for a game called Reflex, and that one really uses this controller very well. So I just thought, well, let's post another video about the driving controller, and what I'm showing here, you may have guessed, is actually Asteroids. A fellow on Atari Age posted this ROM. It was programmed by Thomas Jentzsch, I think it is, or Jentzsch. I mean, he's out of Germany, so I'm assuming it's Jentzsch. He has taken the 2600 code for Asteroids and modified it so you can actually use the steering controller to rotate your ship. And of course, fire with that button. How do you do thrust and hyperspace then, you might ask? Well, you still keep the joystick plugged into port number 1, and you push up on it occasionally to thrust, and you pull back on it to hit hyperspace. It seems like a very convoluted control scheme, and you wouldn't think it works all that well, but it's actually surprisingly good. So I thought I'd show some gameplay here. What Thomas also did, in addition to just modifying the control scheme, is he changed the asteroids to look a bit more like their original vector version, and he upped the difficulty just ever so slightly. So I'm just going to go with game number 1. Now, usually with asteroids on the 2600, I'm more of a game number 4 player. I like how the asteroids tend to separate and float a little more horizontally on that version. So maybe I'll play that one as well. But let's just give game number 1 a try here, and I'll show you what it's like. Here we go. So now what's really nice is Thomas actually added the number of your lives left at the top of the screen, so that's kind of nice. And let's just get rid of some of these asteroids here before I get in trouble. There we go. Yeah, you would think, I mean, given that Asteroids was a game that just used buttons, the joystick control would seem to be the better way to do this, and so how could a steering wheel controller actually work? But it's actually very, very nice. Now again, you do have to occasionally reach for the joystick to thrust or use hyperspace to get out of the way. In fact, I'll do that now. Oh, no, I won't. Well, okay. I'll do that in a moment here. Let's just clear a bit of space so I don't die. Okay, so if I push up, there you go. And typically what I would do is have the joystick sitting on my lap and use it only occasionally, and mostly just use the driving controller. It's a really good control scheme if you think about it. Now, this is getting to be, it's hyperspace out of there. There we go. Move forward a bit, get away from the corner. Oh, there goes trouble. Oh no, I'm doing okay. Hyperspace. Yeah, so as long as you don't mind, whoops, let's get up here. As long as you don't mind having to grab for the other controller on occasion, it's actually a really good control scheme. And I do like the precision that, I don't even have extra life. I do like the extra precision that it gives me for being able to aim my shots. Because there's a lot of times when it gets really hectic on screen, it's very nice to be able to very rapidly point, spin around, do the controls that way. I like it. Now, we're not seeing any UFOs. I have a feeling since I'm just using game number 1 or going with the initial one on the menu, maybe Thomas took that one out of the first game. I can't recall. Anyway, let's switch to game number 4, which is the one that I'm used to, and we'll see if we can get some UFOs as well. Right, now we've got it on game number 4, and I prefer the way the asteroids move about the screen on this setting. I've turned on the difficulty, so now the UFOs will appear. Let's give this version a shot. Yeah, you can see right away, there's a little bit better movement of the asteroids. I much prefer the way this particular, of course I'm dead already, but I do prefer the way the asteroids move on number 4 and above. I think they call this fast asteroids. They're not technically faster. Maybe they are a little bit. but I just prefer the way they actually move around on the screen. This is much more like coin-op Asteroids, in my opinion. Anyway, yeah, so this is really fun. I'm dying a lot, but it's a really good implementation, not only of Asteroids in general, but I do like using the driving controller as a way to control. Get the UFO. There we go. Anyway, yeah, just thought I'd bring up another Atari game. I haven't talked about them in a while, and really love the driving controller. Just wish more games would make use of it. There's a handful that I still have. I can't quite get them to operate properly on my machine here, but regardless. Anyway, that's the Atari driving controller using for the hacked version of Asteroids that Thomas Jentzsch made. Again, link in the description down below where you can download this ROM. And until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.